Yo, it's your brother Mo, and today I'm going to be sharing with you the 4 men that changed the course of history and also were practitioners of NoFap. Okay, you are watching this video right now because you believe that you are destined for greatness. You understand that you are on this personal growth journey to close the gap between where you are and where you're capable of being, but maybe there are some destructive habits that are holding you back from living up to that vision of yourself. Okay, so the intention of this video is to empower you with some motivation, to get you even more reasons to quit watching porn, to get on this nofap journey and reverse the negative side effects that pornography has had on your ability to create results in your life. Okay, now before diving into the video, just a quick announcement letting you know that I've put together a free 1-hour training called the Conscious Creator Manifesto on how you can get your mind, your body, your spirit functioning in harmony so that you can create a life that you love. So stick to the end of this video where I'll be announcing how you can get access to that. Okay? Now, the first person who changed the course of history, who was a practitioner of NoFap, was Isaac Newton. Okay, and I quote, "The way to chastity is not to struggle with incontinent thoughts, but to avert thoughts by some employment or by reading or by meditating on other things." So Isaac Newton changed the course of history. He came up with the laws of motion. He really came up with the foundation of classical physics, of understanding how the universe actually functions. But there is actually some thought on him being a virgin when he died, right? Now, he changed the course of history. But when we look at some accounts of his life on the type of person that he was an angry person. He went through some shit in childhood. His dad died before he was born. His mom ditched him for some dude. He was living with his uncle, and he went through a really traumatic childhood, which could have played a part in the way that he played out, right? He was used that trauma to go and facilitate even more growth in his life. But he was thought to be someone who was very angry all the time. He was someone who was not really a pleasure to be around. But nonetheless, he went and created a legacy. Now, this is something that I think about myself, because I want to leave a legacy, right? I am creating content to help people so that I can go and create a change in the world and actually leave an impact and leave the world better than I found it, right? But this guy over here, Isaac Newton, he changed the course of history, right? He's going to be talked about for as long as humans are alive, right? But himself, based on his accounts of his life, he was not really experiencing those higher positive emotions, right? So it's like, yeah, he changed the course of history, but his own life was not to the point where it was vibrating at the highest frequency. He wasn't experiencing peace, love, joy, but he still changed the course of history. So that is something to understand, that we might be refraining from sex altogether, from sexual energy, but until we really learn how to cultivate that sexual energy and do so with our partner to develop a deep, intimate connection, then we might be missing out on some of the most deep experiences in life, right? So I created another video on this, on the 7 levels of semen retention. You can check it out over here. But nonetheless, Isaac Newton did change the course of history, and there are some accounts saying that he died a virgin. Okay, now the next man who changed the course of history was Nikola Tesla. Okay, he created the AC electric unit, literally where you plug your laptop in right now, where you charge your phone. That was partly developed, like the first stage of it, developed by Nikola Tesla, right? And Thomas Edison actually promised to give him like $50,000 if he could solve a certain problem. But then he, like, when he solved it, Edison was like, "Oh, you don't understand American humor. We are just joking around, so I'll just raise your pay by $10. So nonetheless, he was one of the most productive scientists and inventors of our generation, of our history as a species. And he said, and I quote, "I do not believe that an inventor should marry, because he has so intense a nature and so much in it of vile, passionate qualities that in giving himself to a woman he might love, he would give everything, and so take everything from his chosen field. I do not think you can name many great inventions that have been made by married men." Okay, and that's what Nikola Tesla says. Again, he's one of these men who was proposed to have died as a virgin. So again, he might have missed out on some of the deepest experiences of life, but he changed the course of history, and he was said to have been a rather pleasant man, unlike Isaac Newton. Maybe Newton was dealing with his own childhood traumas from back in the day, mommy-daddy issues, right? Got dished by both of them. but he changed the course of history. And both of these men are examples of someone who were able to transmute that sexual energy and create something outside in the world, right? Maybe they didn't use that sexual energy to experience transcendent levels of consciousness whereby they could develop a deeper relationship with themselves and the partner, but they were able to change the course of history. And again, I will revert back to that thought experiment I was running through about my quality of life versus the legacy I seek to create. And I do not see any reason why you cannot achieve both. You cannot have it all, right? Why would you want a cake if you can't eat it? Like my Uncle G says, oh, if I have a cake, I'm going to eat it, right? Why would I have a horn if I can't toot it, right? So at the end of the day, you don't have to bargain, you don't have to give up, and you don't have to become celibate. So definitely check out the 7 levels of semen retention mastery, which will help you get clear on where you fall on the spectrum. Now, the next history maker on this list who practiced NoFap is Steve Jobs. Okay, now his ex-girlfriend wrote an entire book on his sexual practices. There's a lot of, I wouldn't say it's 100% accurate, like she's talking about his past life as a, like it goes pretty deep, and basically he ditched her, he had a kid with her, and then he didn't want to take responsibility for the kid. But there is an interesting account in that book which I will be quoting right now. Okay, so she said that our birth control method up to that point was Steve's coitus interruptus, right? Also called the pull-out method, which for him was about his conserving his energy for work, for power and wealth by conserving his vital energies, right? So I don't know how much of her account was true about Steve Jobs' sex life, because she went pretty deep. But this is interesting because it shows that Steve Jobs was someone who understands the power of retaining that sexual energy, right? He was actually, she said that he wanted to have tantric sex with her in the shed or something like that. And she's like, yo, we're not spiritually ready for that situation right now. But at the end of the day, he is someone who understood the power of sexual energy, of creativity, to build your own power, to build your own wealth. And he built the most valuable company in the world, right? $1 trillion. But again, he was someone who was said to not have been a pleasure to be around, right? He was very strict, and I guess he was a kind of an angry person as well, based on the accounts that people who have worked with him have said. But nonetheless, he is one of another Fapstronaut who has entirely changed the course of humanity. And the final man who changed the course of history, who was also a practitioner of NoFap, is Muhammad Ali, right? I am the greatest. And he was someone to have practiced like abstinence like up to 6 weeks before going into a fight. Now, this is something that is very common in like fighting circles, in MMA circles, in boxing circles. It's actually something that has been around since the BC era. In the Olympics, there was like Greek fighters who would not even talk about sex because they understood the power of that energy to be channeled into aggression. And then again, it comes back to what I was referring to: when you are not transmuting that sexual energy throughout your body and you're retaining it, then that can factor into anger, into aggression. I talked about this in the 7 levels of semen retention mastery video on how when I was practicing NoFap, it led to me experiencing a lot of pent up anger and aggression. And it was not in alignment with the person I wanted to show up as. But nonetheless, if you're a fighter, if you're a boxer, then it can definitely help you show up with more aggression and utilize that towards winning the fight, right? So there's an Olympic boxing coach, Harry Wiley, who said that in the book, in Muhammad Ali's book, and he said that, and I quote, "There's a kid just come down here named Cassius Clay. If you bet on him every time he fights, you'll be a rich man because he won't lose a single fight. I believe his thing is sexual control, and he's got it. Any kid who can control his sex can win the title. I believe it," right? So this is not something that's surprising, because a lot of the people, like I said, in fighting have an understanding this power of sexual energy to channel it into aggression, channel it into showing up as the most dominant version of themselves in the ring. So just another reason for you to understand the power of sexual energy that Napoleon Hill in his book Think and Grow Rich refers to as the most powerful force in the universe, right? So I do not believe that NoFap is the end all be all. I do not believe it's a lifestyle. I do understand the power of it to reverse the negative side effects that porn has on your brain, but there is always another level which I recommend you check out my video on the 7 levels of semen retention mastery. Okay, so leave a comment below letting me know which one of these men you look up to the most, and I'm just very interested to find out. And click a bunch of the buttons below letting me know that you like this video, that you dislike it. Click the dislike button, right? Subscribe if you haven't already. But I hope that this has been valuable for you to get you even more pumped up to start and continue on this journey. And I referenced the Conscious Creator Manifesto at the start of this video. I'll link out to it below in the description, in the first comments. Check that out, opt in with your email address, and get focused on this 1 hour of training that really allow you to get clear on what it is that you need to do right now in order to bring harmony into your internal energy, so that you can focus on what you need to do to create the life that you want. So with that, this has been Mo, and I will see you in the next video.